All right, good day. So now, here we're gonna do a problem solving for this question paper. It's a preparation for grade 12, grade 10's mathematics. So without wasting any time, let us go through the questions. Now, question number 1, it says to us, determine the product of the following and simplify fully. So we need to determine the product, meaning we need to multiply and then simplify fully where it is possible. Definitely, we are going to start with 1.1.1. So now 1.1.1, I'm just going to shoot straight to the final answer. Let us distribute inside. We're going to say AB squared multiplied by negative 2A squared. We have negative 2A to the power of 3 multiplied by B to the power of 2. And therefore, we distribute this one inside of the bracket. We're going to say AB squared plus 4B. We add the exponents of the same variables. In this case, we're going to add the exponents of B. And once more again, we're going to have, we're going to have 4. We're going to have 4 AB to the power of 3. Can we simplify this expression further? No. So that means this will be our final answer. And then now we move to 1.1.2. We are given these two terms, and we need to multiply them together. We firstly distribute this one over here. We're going to say x multiplied by x to the power of 2. We add the exponents. It's going to be x to the power of 3. We're going to say x multiplied by 2x. It's going to be 2x to the power of 3. And then x multiplied by positive 8. It's going to give us positive 8x. And then we distribute negative 2. We're going to say negative 2 to the power of x squared. It's going to be negative 2x squared. Negative 2 multiplied by positive 2x. It's going to be negative 4x. And then negative 2 multiplied by positive 8. It's going to give us negative 16. Now, when it comes to questions like this, it is also advisable to solve this question, maybe not to avoid making mistakes. You can simply, the first step, you can multiply, you can write your, let me show you, you can write your x multiply by this term over here. It's 2x plus 8. You can also do it like this, plus 8. Subtract 2 and multiply by the very same bracket once more again. It's 2 plus 2x plus 8. So I know some of the grade 10 learners, this is how you expand your bracket first, and then you then expand by multiplying inside of each. It is still fine, you can do this, okay? Or you can simply run this step over here. So this will be our first step from the starting question. And therefore, let us simplify and see which variables are like terms. We can see that here we have, I think I made a mistake here. X multiplied by x squared is this. X multiplied by here, it's supposed to be 2, not 3, right? Aha, that's where I thought I made a mistake. So now let's try to simplify this. X to the power of 3 doesn't have any other like term. It is as it is. And therefore, we can see that we have x squared and another x squared. The other one is positive and the other one is negative, meaning they're going to cancel out each other. And then we have positive 8x minus 4x. When we add them together, we're going to get positive 4x, right? And therefore, we have a negative 16. And therefore, do we have the remaining like terms in this case? No. And therefore, this will be our final answer. Now we move to question number 1.2. 1.2, it says to us, factorize the following expressions fully. So let us take 1.2.1. We need to factorize these expressions fully. Factorization, remember, our final answer is supposed to be expressed inside of the brackets, right? And therefore we have this expression over there, which is 2x squared plus 7 minus 4. And then how to factorize this? Remember, we want the factors of this expression. This type of factorization, it's 3 terms. And we know that we're going to have to open up 2 brackets in order for us to simplify this expression over here. Now, remember, the first term that we're going to write here and here, we are going to use the factors of 2x squared, right? So in order for us to use the factors of 2x squared, what are we going to do? What are the factors of 2x squared? There are only 2. It's going to be 2x and x. So that means these two factors of 2x squared, they are the factors of 2x squared, because when we multiply them, they will take us back to x squared. So there is no any other factors that we can use besides this. So it really does not matter where you write your 2x, where you write your x, whether you write your 2x on this side, or you write it 2x on this side and x, and so forth. It really does not matter. And therefore now here, we are going to write the factors of the last term, which is the factors of 4. Now, what are the factors of 4? We have 2 and 2. When you multiply them together, they're going to give us 4. Another factors of 4, we have 4 and 1, right? But because here we have 4 and 1, these two factors, we can interchange them. Here we can have 1, and then there we can have 4. They are interchangeable, right? So now these are all factors of 4, right? So now the question is, which factors are we going to choose? Are we going to choose 2 and 2, or are we going to choose 4 and 1? Now this depends on the product that we're gonna get. And then after getting that product, when we add the products or subtract the products, we're supposed to get the middle term. So let's assume that we have 4 and 1, or we can just start with 2, it's fine, 2 and 2. If I write 2 and 2 over there, are we gonna be able to get the middle term? That's the question. So let's see. Let's prove, or let's test that to see if we're gonna be able to get the middle terms. So now, what are we going to do that? We're going to say 2x multiplied by 2, it will give us 4x. 2 multiplied by x, it will give us 2x. When we add these two products, or when we subtract these two products, are we going to get the middle term, which is 7? Let's see. 4 plus 2, is it giving us 7? No, it is going to give us 6. That fails. 4 subtract 2, are we going to get 7? No, we're not going to get 7. That also fails. So we can't write 2 this side, 2, because we have two 2's. So it does not matter which 2 goes where. So you can't interchange these numbers. So that means these two factors of 4, we're going to cancel them out. They are probably most definitely wrong. So which factors now are we going to take? Remember, we are focusing on the factors of 4, right? The factors of 4, which is 2 and 2 and 4 and 1. Let's see if 4 and 1 will work. Maybe let's say we start by writing 4 here, and then we write 1 there. And then let's see that we're going to get the middle term. We're going to say 2x multiplied by 1, it will give us 2x. We're going to say 4 multiplied by x, it will give us 4x. When we subtract these two products, are we going to get the middle term? Let's see. 2x minus 4x. Does it give us 7? No, it fails. But let's see when we add them. When I say 2x plus 4x, am I going to get the 7? No, that still also fails. So which products are correct? Because they are both products of 4. Remember, 4 and 1, they can be interchanged because we have 2 over there. This is the reason why we can interchange them. So now let us interchange 4 and 1. By interchanging 4 and 1, now we're going to write 4 this side and then 1 on the other side, okay? I'm doing this and I'm doing this only once, guys. This is a basic, so I'm not going to do this any longer, next time, okay? I want you to understand how this works, because some of the grade 10s, they struggle with this. Now, 2x multiplied by 4, how much do we get? We get 8x. 1 multiplied by x, we're going to get x. Now, these two products, when we add them, are we going to get the middle term? No, we're going to get 9 because 8x plus 1x is going to give us 9x. But let's subtract them. 8 subtract x. Am I going to get 7x? Yes. So now this is correct. So the factors of 4 that we're going to consider by writing them over there, it's 1 and 4. 1, we're going to write it on this side, and 4, we're going to write it on this side. But now let's talk about the signs, right? So how is it possible that we got a positive 7? So meaning if this sign is positive and this sign is negative, meaning the bigger number supposed to take the sign of the middle term. So the bigger number between 1x and 8x, it's 8x. Therefore, 8x supposed to take the positive. But how did we get the 8x? We said 2x multiplied by 4. So meaning we must have positive on this bracket, so that when we say 2x multiplied by 4, we get positive 8x. That means, how do we get negative x? We're going to say negative 1. That means here we're supposed to have negative 1 multiplied by x. We get negative x. And therefore, this is how we're going to factorize this bracket. And therefore, this will be our final answer for question number 1.2.1. I hope that was clear. And I will never do this again. I'm just doing it once. And this is how you solve these kind of questions and so forth. Okay? It's just the basic, where I feel like some of grade 10s, they really need this. And it's scary because some of grade 12s, they also need this. They don't know how to factorize this. They'd rather use quadratic formula. So now we move to question number 1.2.2. I'll be waiting for the questions if we have the questions. Feel free to open up your mic and ask where you do not understand. Now we move to question number 1.2.2, where it says ax squared minus ay subtract b to the power of 3 to the power of 2x plus by. We need to factorize this fully once more again. But look, how many terms do we have in this expression? We have 4. 1, 2, 3, and the 4. We have 4 terms. So we're not going to open up brackets like this from the get-go because we have 4 terms. Is there any common factor that we can take out of first term, second term, third term, and fourth term? No, there is x here, there is no x here. So we can't take out, we can't consider anything. There is a here, there is a here, there is no a here. So we can't factor any term while the expression is like this. So this type of factorization is called grouping. So we're going to group our terms before we can factorize them. So let us try to group. It's fine for the first try. If you try to group the first 2 terms, it's fine. You can group the first term with the third term. You can group the first term with the fourth term, however you want to group them. But for the first time, if you want to group the first term and the second term, it's fine to check if you will get the final answer correctly. So now let's try to group the 2 terms, because some terms, they can be grouped. So be careful. So let us try to group ax squared, a squared multiplied by x and a multiplied by y. We group these 2 terms first. Ne? And therefore, let us try to group these 2 terms once more again. But be careful, when you group them, you insert them inside of the bracket, right? You just isolate them. So because now, when I group bx squared and by, I'm going to remove this negative from bx. But be careful, immediately when you remove that negative from b squared x, therefore you see now, what did you do? Your b squared x, it is now positive. So this, because you're going to group it with this will also be affected, where we're going to factor out the negative. So meaning positive by will no longer be positive because we took the negative outside of the bracket. Now we're going to have the by. So that when we distribute it back inside of the bracket, it will take us back to where we started. So this will be the first step of factorizing this question. We are not done. We just grouped. That was the first step. And then the second step, now we factor out the common factors. Now let's have a look at this bracket. Our common factor is a. So why don't we take a outside of this bracket? Now we're left with 1a and x. And then here we're going to left with negative y. We close the bracket. Subtract here. What is common factor? We can see that The common factor, it is b, and therefore here we're going to have what? And then here we're going to have, b x subtract y, and then we close the bracket. So when we group these two terms, when you group all of these two terms, this is what we get. Né? Let me be honest with you. Questions like this, you will always get them wrong sometimes. The reason why I did this, I wanted you to understand that sometimes it's not always correct of what you think you are doing. And some grade 12 learners, they will end here because there's nothing that they can do. You can't factor this. You can't factor this. And they will end here and say, we are done. And that's it. This question, if you do it like this, it will be 100% wrong. But there is nothing wrong with what I did over here. But the question, it is not correct. I mean, the answer, it is not correct. Now, here's the question: how to answer this question correctly? I know you do this most of the times. Don't panic. Now, here's the tip. Each and every time, when you have two different variables presented with squared, you group those variables. I said to you, there is nothing wrong with grouping the first two terms, first term and the third term, first term and the fourth term. There is nothing wrong of that. Just that you won't get the final answer. Now, in this case, the trick is when you meet something or when you encounter something that looks like this is how we're going to solve this question. Okay? So we're going to group this and that because they have the same degree of different variables, which is 2 and 2. So we are actually going to group a squared x, and negative b squared x. This is what we are going to group, okay? And therefore, this is now correctly. This is how we're supposed to do it, okay? And therefore, I'm going to group by with ay. I want this positive to be this side, okay? It does not matter. If you take positive outside, it really does not matter. It won't affect anything. The thing that affects is negative. So I'm going to take my by this side and then my negative ay that side, okay? Now, let us try to do what we did. We grouped and then we factorize. What is the common factor here? It's x. We take x outside of the bracket. We have a squared minus b squared, close bracket. Plus, we take y outside of the bracket, and then we have b subtract a. This is not the final answer because we can see that a squared minus b squared can be further factorized. And looking at that expression, we can see it's a difference of two squares. Here we have squared, and then here we have squared. Same applies if we have x squared minus 1. Remember, 1 is the same as squared because 1 to the power of 2 will always yield to 1. It's difference of two squares. So that means in this case, this bracket can be further be factorized by difference of two squares. We have AA, we have BB, the other bracket is positive and the other bracket is negative. Let's not forget this one over here, plus y, b subtract a, and then we close the bracket. Now, how many terms do we have? Be careful. Be careful. We have two terms. It is this term and that term separated by this plus sign. Now, out of these terms, we are not done. We still need to factorize. What can we factorize out of these two terms? Apparently, we can factorize a minus b or b minus a. That's the question. That's what we need to understand. Now, be careful. Here we can see that we have a plus b, a minus b. But look here what is happening. We can see that a is this side, b it is this side. So if we decide to take a on this side and b on this side so that we can see it matches with which bracket over there, it is still fine so that you don't make mistakes. So we're going to have x, a plus b A subtract B, and therefore I'm going to take my negative A this side. Immediately when I take my negative A, I'm going to factor that negative outside so that it affects this positive. It becomes negative, and then A is now positive because I took negative. Yes, it's true. I took my negative this side, but at the same time, I took the negative outside of the bracket. And therefore B is positive. Now B will be negative because I took the negative outside of the bracket. Here it is. Remember, when you take this negative inside of the bracket, it's supposed to give you the very same thing that we started with, okay? So now, let's have a look then. What can we factorize? We can see that we have A minus B, we have A minus B out of this term and that term. Let's take A minus B outside of the bracket. And therefore here, what do we left with? We took A minus B, we're gonna left with X, A plus B, right? Subtract y, and then here we're gonna left with y, and therefore this will be our final answer to this question, which is question number 1.2.2. Now we move to question number 1.2.3. 1.2.3, it says to us, we have 125 minus 27m to the power of 3. Even when you get in grade 12, wherever you are, you still need to understand this, okay? This is algebra at its best. This is where you need to make sure that the basics are properly well presented. Now here we have different type of factorization. It's different from these two. But now, how are we going to factorize this? So this one is of perfect, it's of cubes, né? It's of cubes. So this one, how are we going to factorize it? It's different from quadratic, it's different from grouping, and this one is cube. And remember, inside of this grouping, we apply difference of two squares. So I love how this question is structured, okay? Because it exposes you to many different types of factorizations. So now, how to factorize this kind of an expression? This one is where we're going to open up two brackets. The other one is short, and the other one it is long. This is the shortest one, and this is the longest one. Just like how we factorize 1.2.1, we're going to do the same. But this is a trick that I'm going to give you on how to factorize this. Né? All the times when you see a perfect, when you see a cube and a cube over there, this is what you're going to do. You're going to take a cube root outside of your, whatever, your scrapbook. You're going to take your cube root of 125, right? You know that 5 multiplied by 5 multiplied by 5 multiplied 5 3 times is going to give you 125. So that means a cube root of 125 is going to be 5. And the answer that you get over here, you're going to write inside of this bracket. And then we move to 27m to the power of 3. What is the cube root of that term of 27m to the power of 3? The cube root of 27m to the power of 3, we know that 27, it is a cube root, right? It's given by how much? It's given by 3 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 3. So that means the answer here, we're going to get 3 for 27, and then we're going to get m for m to the power of 3 when you take it inside of the cube root sign. So that means this answer, we're going to write it over here. It's a trick all the time. So when you see something like this, take cube roots, write your factors over there, and then you are done. And therefore, what is the sign here? The very same sign that you take over here, you write it over there. That's it. Now, how are we going to figure this long bracket over here? It's simple. This is how you're going to write in term here and the last term over there. This is how you're going to do it. Now you're going to use this bracket to determine these terms. You're going to say 5 to the power of 2. What is 5 to the power of 2? It's 25. It's 25. And therefore, what is negative 3m to the power of 2? Negative 3m to the power of 2 is going to be 9m squared, positive 9m squared. 9m squared. And therefore, how to determine the middle term? Look, when this bracket is negative, the following sign here is supposed to be positive, they alternate. If this was positive, here we're going to write negative. So it's just alternate. And therefore, how to determine this middle term over here? It's easy. Like I said, you use this bracket to determine everything inside of this bracket. So to determine this middle term, it's going to be easy. Now you're going to say 3 multiplied by, 5 multiplied by 3m. It will give you 15m. And then you are done. This is the final answer to this. And then you check, is this bracket factorizable? Like, can you factorize this bracket? This bracket, however you like, you can't further factorize this. So this is where your final answer will end. And therefore, we are done for 1.2.3. Now moving to 1.3, the statement says to us, simplify the following expressions fully. So 1.3.1, it says to us, we are given this, so we need to simplify. What is to simplify is to digest. We need to break it down into a simpler form. So I'm going to be a little bit quick on this ones. We did a lot of basics here. There's nothing tricky over here. So I'll start utilizing this bracket first. So I'm just going to rewrite everything as it is. Yep, I'm just going to do that. So we have 25x to the power of 4 multiplied by y to the power of -2, and then rise to power, which is one of the laws of the exponents. We're going to have to distribute this negative inside. Guys, be careful. This is mathematics. I want you to understand this. We have 5x to the power of 3 multiplied by y to the power of 0, -2. It is mathematical to distribute this inside of the bracket. Ne? I'm going to show you something which students fail to understand. 3 multiplied by -2, it will give us -6. Multiply, you see here we have multiply, y to the power of 0 multiplied by that, it will give us also 0 because we are multiplying. So this, it is not mathematical. Let me show you something. Let's say maybe here we have plus sign, or we have minus sign, or whatever, and then we have y to the power of 0, and then there we have -2. This is not math. You distribute this. You say here you have 5 to the power of -2 multiplied by x, 3 multiplied by -2, you say it's -6, plus y, 0 multiplied by -2, it's 1. This is not math. When you have the plus sign between the two terms, you do not distribute this exponent. You don't multiply the exponent. This is not math. It's not mathematics. It's your own math, which doesn't even exist at all. But when you have multiplication, you can simply distribute the exponent inside of the bracket. It's mathematical. So here, so that means we're going to have 5 to the power of -2 multiplied by x. What is 3 multiplied by that? Will give us -6. Multiply, you see we have multiply by y. 0 multiplied by that, it will give us 0 still. And therefore, this is what I'm going to do. This is the first step. The second step, I have 25. Now, look at these terms. Look at these variables. We have x, and we are multiplying throughout. So when we multiply, we add the exponents. We know that. So that means here we're going to have 4 plus -6. It will give us -4. I think it will give us -2, right? Yep. I think it will give us -2, right? And therefore, here it's 1. One of the definitions of those, this is 1. I can just ignore this. And therefore here I'm going to have multiply by y to the power of -2, right? There is no any other variable of y except this one where this is 1. And therefore now 5 to the power of 2 is the same as 1 over, what is 5 to the power of 2? It's 25, 1 over 25. And therefore 25 and 1 over 25, they will cancel each other, and then our final answer will be 1 over, remember the exponent is negative, so if we want to take it, if you want to make it positive, you're going to have to take the reciprocal of that, and then the sign will change of the exponent will now be positive. Same applies to there, and then here we're going to have y to the power of 2, and therefore this will be most definitely our final answer. This is how you solve this without wasting time. And the next thing, you are not done in exam. So please utilize the simplest steps and the quickest steps so that you can finish in exam. And then we will be moving to 1.3.2. Whoop, what's happening now? Oh, okay. And then we're going to move to 1.3.2. Right. Now, 1.3.2 is an expression like this for 4 marks. First thing first, I don't want to see division. So when I see a division sign, I interchange it. I substitute with multiplication. But you know, when you change division into multiplication, you take the reciprocal of this fraction over here. And at the very same time, I can see that there I have the quadratic at which I can factorize. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factorize this expression at the top. Factors of x squared is x. I have taught you the basics. And then the factors of 10 so that I can get 7. Most definitely, let me think, it's going to be 5 and 2. It's going to be 5 and 2. And therefore, all of the brackets, they're going to be positive, right? And therefore, here I have x plus 5. And therefore, I see the division. I change it into multiplication. And then I take the reciprocal. I have 5 over x plus 2. Therefore, it's multiplication throughout. This bracket is going to cancel with that bracket. It's x plus 5, x plus 5. This bracket will cancel out with that bracket, which is x plus 2, x plus 2. And then my final answer from this step will be 5. And then we are done for 4 marks. Yes, for 4 marks, we are done. And then we move to 1.3.3, where we have this, this one is also there in grade 11. It's also there in grade 12. They love it. So be prepared, grade 10s. So here we have 9 multiplied by 3. I want to rewrite it as it is. X plus 2 plus 5 multiplied by 3 to the power of x. Divide by 3 to the power of x. Subtract 3 to the power of x plus 1. Now, how to simplify this? Remember what they say to you. Each and every time when you see a plus sign, what's the purpose of the plus sign is to factor. I mean, when you see a plus sign, what do? You factorize, you take out the common factor outside of the bracket. Do we have the common factor here? No. Yes, it's true. We have 2 times at which we can take out the common factor, but so far we don't see a common factor. So we need to break this first. So we have 9. Oh, no wonder why my writing is not perfect. I'm writing on top of this and it's disturbing me. So we have 9 multiplied by 3 to the power of x multiplied by 3 to the power of 2, right? Positive 2 plus 5 multiplied by 3 to the power of x divide by 3 to the power of x subtract 3 to the power of x multiply by 3 to the power of positive 1. Now, let's have a look at the top. Do we have the common factor now? Yes, the common factor is 3 to the power of x, 3 to the power of x. And then we're going to take it outside of the bracket, separated by this plus sign. So we have 3 to the power of x. And then at the top, we're going to left with 3 multiplied by, what is 3 to the power of 2? It's going to give us 9 plus 5 to the power of 1. Divide by, here, what is the common factor separated by this negative sign? It's going to be 3 to the power of x. Inside of the right bracket, we have 1. Subtract 3 to the power of 1. We close the bracket. And therefore, this and this, they're going to cancel off. And the following step will be, what will be 9 multiplied by 9? 9 squared, it's 81. So that means here we have 81 plus 5 divided by 1 subtract 3, it will give us negative 2. And therefore, what is 81 plus 5? 81 plus 5, it will give us 86. And then 86 divided by negative 2, it will give us the negative 43. And therefore, this will be our final answer to this question. Sorry about that. This will be our final answer to this question, which is 1.3.3. Okay. And then we are done solving this question.